Okay, let's see what you learned in lesson 1.5. I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and I would like you to answer them negatively. Whether the answers really are true or not doesn't make any difference. Just answer these questions negatively. First of all, ¿vives en Chicago? ¿Vives en Chicago? As I ask you that question, I say vives, which means I'm speaking to you. You hear the s at the end. Notice also that I didn't say the pronoun tú. I didn't say vives tú in Chicago, because the s at the end of vives makes it clear that I'm speaking to you. So once again, answer negatively. ¿Vives en Chicago? Okay, your response should have been no. Yo no vivo en Chicago. That first no is just answering the question, yes or no. The second no was to make vivir negative, okay? So hopefully you said either no, yo no vivo en Chicago, or no, no vivo en Chicago. Both responses would be equally valid. I simply, in the second of the two, dropped the yo. The yo is really not necessary to say, because we hear the o at the end of the verb, making it clear that you'd be speaking about yourself. Try the second question. ¿Haces la cama? ¿Haces la cama? Okay, you should have said, no, yo no hago la cama. Or, no, no hago la cama. I hope that's not true, but nonetheless, I do hope you formed the statement correctly. Again, in the second of the two statements that I made, I noticed I dropped the yo, which you can do as well. Okay? Number 3. ¿Escuchas música clásica? ¿Escuchas música clásica? All right, hopefully you said no. Yo no escucho música clásica. Or no, no escucho música clásica. Okay, and last of all, ¿lavas los trastes? ¿Lavas los trastes? Even if you don't remember that trastes are dishes, you hopefully responded, no, no lavo los trastes. You could have, of course, added the yo in there. No, yo no lavo los trastes, but it wasn't necessary. Now let's do the same thing, but I'm going to talk to you about this boy right here. This young man who's accompanying me here. So, ¿vive él en Chicago? Your response could again occur in 2 different fashions. Hopefully you said, no, él no vive en Chicago. You really did not have to say the él. I did in my question. Because when if I simply said, vive en Chicago, I could be speaking to you formally. I could be talking about some girl, or I could be talking specifically about this young man here. You didn't know at that point. But as soon as I established that I was speaking about this boy by saying, vive él en Chicago, throughout the rest of our conversation, it is no longer necessary to say él, either in the response or in forming the question. And so you simply could have said, no, no vive en Chicago. And I would understand that you're speaking about this boy because I had established that fact in my question. Okay. Second question. Again about this boy, but I'm not going to use él now because we already know about whom we're speaking. ¿Hace la cama? Notice I say hace, with él, ella, usted. We chop the verb. ¿Hace la cama? You should have said no. No hace la cama. You may say no. Él no hace la cama, but it's not necessary. Thirdly, ¿escucha música clásica? Probably, with my eyes at least, or my head, I would nod toward him. So you wouldn't think I was speaking to you formally. But nonetheless, I don't have to change my statement in any way. How did you answer that? ¿Hace la cama? Remember, we're speaking about this boy. We haven't changed subjects yet. Yeah, hopefully you said, no, no escucha música clásica. Okay, last of all, I still speak about this young man here. ¿Lavo los trastes? Good. You would say, no, no lavo los trastes. And again, if you said, no, él no lava los trastes, that's fine. You're simply using one word more than you truly need to do. Let's turn it around now and have you ask me questions. By the way, did you notice when I asked questions of you, I said tú? Now, I'm assuming that most of the audience watching this video is composed of young students in a school. And in that I'm a teacher, you younger students, I speak to you in a familiar fashion. I'm not being disrespectful, please, but I am nonetheless not speaking in a way that would suggest you're an authority over me or that you're an older person. Okay, I'm assuming that you're a young person. If you happen to be an older person watching this, please excuse my inappropriateness. Now, so you, however, when you speak to me, you should always use usted, because we don't really know each other, and because I'm in a position of directing a class, and because I'm as old as the hills. And so here we go. Ask me if I live in Chicago. Okay, first of all, you do need to say usted because it had not yet been established of whom to whom you were speaking or of whom you were speaking in this conversation. If you simply said to me, vive en Chicago, I wouldn't know if you're talking about this girl over here or this guy or you're talking to me. And so you need to start off with the first question, the first statement of the conversation with vive. By the way, it's usted, right? And we take vivir, we chop it, vive, usted vive, but it's a question, so vive usted en Chicago is what you should have asked me. And my answer is no vivo en Chicago. Okay, now ask me if I make the bed. Okay, you did not need to say usted, did you? You could. You may if you'd like to, but it's not necessary because you've already established in the context of this conversation you're speaking to me by the first question you asked where you said usted. So in the second question, the usted is no longer necessary. You could simply say hace la cama. If you wanted to, you could say hace usted la cama, but it truly is not necessary. So hace la cama, and the answer is bueno, la verdad es que sí, yo hago la cama, pero just to practice negative question or statements, I'll say, no hago la cama. Thirdly, ask me if I listen to rock music. Okay, hopefully you said, ¿escucha música rock? And I would say, no escucho música rock. Again, the usted, not necessary for you to employ it, and it wasn't necessary for me to say yo either, was it? I said no escucho. The o at the end of escucho already told you that I'm talking about myself. And last of all, ask me if I wash the dishes. The dishes are los trastes. Okay, hopefully you said lava los trastes, and the answer again, this is not completely true, but no lavo los trastes. Okay, in lesson 1.6, you're going to be learning a second way in which a question can be formed. And this is really quite simple, this manner of forming a question. It's composed of what's called an end question. An end question is simply, as indicated by the title, a question that we place at the end of a statement. For example, a statement would be, tú vives en Chicago, okay? To make a question of that, I would say, I'm going to drop the tú now. Vives en Chicago, ¿verdad? Verdad has the value of, isn't that right? Isn't that true? So, vives en Chicago is merely a statement. You live in Chicago. To make it a question, I add the word verdad to indicate, or to ask for confirmation. Isn't that right? Isn't that true? Vives en Chicago, ¿verdad? Or, haces la cama, ¿verdad? You make the bed, don't you? If I expected that you didn't, I'm expecting a negative response, let's say about listening to classical music. I would make my statement negative and say, no escuchas música clásica, ¿verdad? No escuchas música clásica is simply a statement. You don't listen to classical music. And then the verdad is my request of verification. I said, isn't that right or isn't that true? No escuchas música clásica, ¿verdad? Another example would be, No lavas los trastes, ¿verdad? You don't wash the dishes, do you? No lavas los trastes, ¿verdad? Okay, that's the simple fashion in which a question is formed. A second fashion in which a question is formed. Remember that whatever you anticipate as far as the response, that's how you would state your original statement, either affirmatively or negatively. If, for example, I wanted to know if you live in Detroit, it's probably not very likely most of you live in Detroit. I would say, no vives en Detroit, ¿verdad? I would state the statement in a negative fashion. You don't live in Detroit, do you? Whether I'm saying in English, do you or don't you, in Spanish it's the same word. It's simply verdad. Okay, I hope that's helpful to you as you approach lesson 1.6. Now there's one more element within 1.6 I'd like to show you because it's a new kind of activity. It deals with the importance of using your hands and performing the gestures and learning the gestures. Some of you may find yourself getting sometimes slothful. I hate to imagine that of you, but nonetheless, it can happen to the best of us and to the worst of us. And so, to keep you on your toes, to insist upon your using your hands, etc., I have a section in lesson 1.6 that obliges you to demonstrate that you know what the gestures are, and I'd like to show that to you right now. And as you'll notice later on, not only does this practice activity in lesson 1.6 require you to demonstrate that you know the gestures, but your test at the end of lesson 1.6 will as well. So here we are in lesson 1.6, and in the second section you see a typical activity in which there's a timing going on in which you need to say the words that correspond to the images that you see on the screen. Be careful. This particular one right here, which is the first form of question, you see the number 1 in the lower corner there of the of this symbol. It's to tell you this is the first means by which a question can be formed that you learned. When you see this image, actually there is no sound associated with it. It's merely the gesture. The sound of whistling like that is what I typically do when I indicate the idea of changing the order of the subject and the verb. The sound is not, that whistle is not necessary. You must at least change the order of the subject and the verb by moving your hands in this fashion when you come to this particular image, okay? But the next section, section 3, you come to a section in which it looks like the internet didn't properly download all of the images. Well, that's not the case at all. It's the same kind of situation where you are going to open up a stopwatch. So let me open the stopwatch. I'll choose always on top and then put it up out of the way. Okay. And then I have 54 seconds in which to perform the gesture that corresponds to what I'm about to hear. These black rectangles really are not just images that didn't download. They are intentionally black rectangles. There's nothing in them, but if you click on them, you'll hear a sound. Yo. Yo. And at that point, your responsibility, as you see in the symbolic directions, is to perform the gesture that corresponds to the sound that you hear. Listen to the next one. Escuchar. And so you'll perform this gesture. Next. Vivir. You'll perform this gesture right here. Next. Él. Él. And you'll imagine a young man over here and you'll point at him. Next one. Hacer. Hacer. You perform this gesture. No. No. And that's this image or this gesture right here. Decir. Decir. You don't have to say it. I'm just saying it because I like to hear myself talk. This next one, however, if you click on it, you won't hear anything because there are no words associated with the first manner of forming a question. All you need to do is this right here. You can whistle if you like, but show that the subject and the verb have changed place to form the question, etc. So that's what this section is about. It's important to be able to produce, not just produce the gesture, but also to be able to do it rapidly. That's why the timing is necessary. You need to finish this in 54 seconds. The reason it's important is because, for a variety of reasons linguistically, but from your perspective, academically, this same kind of activity you will perform in the test, which is found at the end of this lesson. And so make sure that this third section right here, you don't just assume these are non-downloaded images and skip past it. You need to perform the gestures that correspond to the sounds that you hear as you click on each of those black screens right there. The reason that the negative sign and also the first form of first manner of forming a question, that they actually have an image there, is because they're a function and not really simply a vocabulary word. And so I needed to put the image there for that particular function, changing a sentence to a negative sentence or forming a question. Okay, I guess that's it. Go ahead and now work independently on lesson 1.6, and I will see you at the beginning of class tomorrow. Goodbye.